Hello everyone, this is Rohit Vanzari and welcome back to my channel. For those people who don't know me, I'm a management consultant working in the field for almost 5.5 years now. I have also done my MBA from IIM Mumbai, which is one of the top institutes in the India. So in the last week I was not able to record anything because of my day-to-day job of management consulting, and I think everyone goes through the same, right? So we work entire week, day to night, and we always keep thinking what should be our retirement corpus. We always go to some of the website and do the step up SIP calculations. If I invest 50,000 per month for and do the step up of 10% every year, and after 30 years, what would be my corpus? I did the same thing. I went to the website of Grow where we have a step up SIP calculator. You can also do the same along with me. Okay, so on this step up SIP calculator, I have put in monthly investment of 50,000, annual step up of 10%, and expected rate of return of 12%. And I have kept in time period of 30 years. And when we calculate this, the total value would become around 44 CR. So wow, so this is a pretty rosy picture, right? So we would think 44 CR is a high number. We would be able to retire very easily with this corpus. But you are wrong. You haven't considered a lot of many factors which should be considered, and this 44 CR in reality will actually become just 2.1 CR. So why am I saying the corpus of 44 CR is not good enough? Okay, so there are few things we didn't consider while calculating this. So here we have considered the annual return of 12%, which is an average return for any index fund, right? But apart from that, we have to also consider the LTCGs, and we also have to consider the inflation. So on paper inflation quoted by the government is up to 6%, but you and me all know, just calculate what was the price of a vegetable 5 years back and what that price is today, and you will see the actual inflation is close to 10%. So all those factors are not considered in this calculator. A few years back the LTCG was 0%, so suddenly it became 10%, and right now it's 12.5%. Who knows, after some years it might be 20% or even 30%. So we have to calculate for worst case scenario, we have to calculate for worst case taxation, we have to calculate for worst case inflation. So in this entire exercise, we will see why this 44 CR is not a good enough number for you to maintain your lifestyle after the retirement, and we will see what that number should actually be. So we will see all these calculations today. I hope this video is not scaring you, because the aim of this video is not to scare you but to educate you so that you can start taking educated decisions. You can start investing on yourself rather than depending on some mutual fund or some investment advisor, and you can also plan your taxes in such a way that your entire corpus is protected somehow from all the taxation which is being increasing in the India right now. So I have prepared this chart based on the different calculations considering the different LTCGs. So as you know, few years back the LTCG was 0%, and it was then made 10%. Right now it's 12.5%, and who knows, in the future it might be even 20% or 30%. So we will take little bit optimistic, not entirely pessimistic value. So we will assume the LTCG will become 20% in the future, and we will also see our inflation adjusted corpus according to 6% of inflation, which is as quoted by the government, and the actual inflation, which I think would be around 10%. So in this graph, as you can see, I have highlighted the calculations using the 20% of LTCG. So your corpus is 44 CR, but after deducing the LTCG of 20%, it would just become 37.2 CR. And if we calculate for the inflation, assuming it's a 6%, that corpus now will become 6.4 CR. And guess what? If you make that inflation 10%, that corpus will become just 2.1 CR, which is very low number, right? Okay, so let's understand these calculations one by one. So first we will calculate for LTCGs. Okay, so here on the screen you can see different LTCG rates from 0% to 30%. your total corpus remain the same, which is 44 CR, and after tax corpus you can see here. So as per the current scenario, your LTCG is 12.5%, and as per that your corpus will become 39.7 CR at the end of the 30 years. But if I assume instead of 12.5%, the LTCG becomes 20% because the current government or any future government who might increase the taxation. So the future optimistic scenario, not entirely pessimistic, not entirely optimistic. In this scenario, the after tax corpus will become just 37.2 CR. So now let's look for the inflation component. So again, there is a inflation calculator on the Grow. Just Google it and open that calculator. So here I am putting in my current cost as 1,000 rupees. A rate of inflation as quoted by government 6% and time period of 30 years. So the current cost of 1,000 would become future cost of 5,743. So if I'm able to buy something for 1,000 rupees today, after 30 years, that same thing would cost around 5,743. So now we also have to adjust our after tax corpus for the inflation. So I'm dividing our after tax corpus by 5,743 and multiplying it by 1,000 to get actual value of that corpus. And as you can see on the screen, with the LTCG of 20% and inflation of 6%, your inflation adjusted corpus will become 6.4 CR. So still this is not a very bad number, and why I'm saying that we will see it in the few seconds. So here in this slide we will see what is going to be your monthly withdrawal in the today's value. So as we saw earlier, our after tax corpus would be around 6.4 CR. So we all know that annual withdrawal rate of 4%. So there's a rule of you can withdraw 4% from your corpus for your after your retirement, so that your corpus keeps growing and you do not face any difficulties. So as per that calculation, your annual withdrawal will be around 1.48 CR, which is a pretty good value, because if we divide it by 12 and adjust for the inflation, your monthly withdrawal in the today's value would become around 2.15 lakhs, which is a pretty good value, because we as we discussed earlier, your current expenses are 50,000 and you are almost getting 5 times of that value for your expenses post retirement. But is this the right calculation? Because as we discussed, the actual inflation is not the 6%, but is actually the 10%. So we will make the same calculation as per the 10% inflation, and we will see how it is impacting your monthly withdrawal in the current value. So again, we went back to the Grow, and instead of 6% of inflation, now we are calculating the inflation by the 10%. So the same 1,000 which was earlier 5,700 something, instead of that I would require 17,449 rupees for buying the same thing which I can buy for 1,000 rupees today. So as per that calculation, our inflation adjusted corpus, by assuming 10% of inflation, will become just 2.13 CR, which is pretty low value. So now here we will recalculate everything considering the inflation of 10%. So earlier we saw our monthly withdrawal rate in the current value was around 2.6 lakhs, which is a pretty good value. But if we assume inflation by 10%, that value actually becomes just 71,000. Even in the best case scenario with the LTCG of 12.5%, that value would become 76,000. And we saw earlier that your current expense is 50,000. So it's not much compared to your current expenses. It is not allowing you any lifestyle inflation. So not so good number according to me. We need to see how much annual return is needed to get earlier monthly withdrawal of 2.15 lakh approximately. So we saw why 12% of return CAGR basis is not good enough for you. So what that value should be? Should it be 14%? Should it be 15%? Should it be 20%, 30%? What that value should ideally be? So as per my calculation, the annual CAGR on your investment should be minimum 80% so that you can survive post retirement. So again, we are recalculating your retirement corpus, assuming the 18% of the return. We have kept the monthly investment same as the 50,000, annual step up of 10%, time period same as 30%. We have just changed the rate of return, and with the 18%, your corpus will become 135 CR. So that is a big number, but as per the same calculation we saw earlier, that value will just become 6.3 CR only. So is this 6.3 CR good enough for you? So here we have recalculated everything using the CAGR of 18%, inflation of 10%, annual withdrawal rate of 4%, and here your monthly withdrawal rate in the today's value is coming around 2.1 lakh, so which is closer to our earlier calculation of 2.15 lakh. And in my opinion, this is a good enough number. It allows you lifestyle inflation, it allows you to travel once you retire, or do something with your money which you want to do, because after retirement you will get bored, you won't have any work, and you need some side project. So 2.1 lakh is good enough number to give you some margin of safety as well. So what should you do to increase your situation post retirement? So here are some tips and takeaways from my side. So you can increase your retirement corpus and retire comfortably with the lifestyle as you wanted. So the first thing you need to do is stop depending on the mutual funds and other investments advisors, because the mutual funds and investment advisors will not give you return of 18% as we discussed earlier. They will give you return of 12%, 30%. At max, if you get a good investment advisor, he will give you 15%. So how to increase your return on the investments? The first thing is you have to learn it on your own. So you should aim for 20% CAGR, but you have to make minimum of 18% CAGR on your investments. So previously, as you know, there was FDs and some people used to invest in the stocks. So people who were investing in the FDs got 8%, 9%. People who were investing in the stock market got 12%, 13%. That was the alpha, right? So that was the alpha they were getting, and most of the people were not investing in the stock market. So those who were investing got rich. But right now, everyone is investing in the mutual fund because the rates on the FDs are very less. They can't even beat the inflation. So as everyone is investing in the stock market, where is your alpha? Your alpha has completely gone. Everyone is making 12% of return. You have to make better than them. You have to do better than them. So that's why you have to generate the alpha, and your minimum rate of return should be 18%. Another thing you can do is your basically savings versus expense ratio. So that was one in our case, right? We were assuming that our expense was 50,000 and our savings were also 50,000. But what if you increase that ratio? So instead of one ratio, let's say you save 1 lakh and invest 50,000, but that is not going to possible until and unless you increase your income. So you also have to focus on increasing your income and building the passive money streams. This is the only way to increase your retirement corpus and maybe become rich in this entire process. While you are increasing your savings to expense ratio and focusing on increasing your income, you should also keep in mind that you should avoid lifestyle upgrades and focus on savings. Any lifestyle upgrade will decrease your savings rate and will decrease your retirement corpus. I am not saying you live completely frugally, you do not spend anything. Spend the money, but spend it wisely. If you want a bike, get a decent bike, but do not go and buy Kawasaki. Or if you want a car, buy a normal sedan or anything, but don't go buy and something like Skoda or Mercedes, right? The third thing is the tax planning. As we saw, the LTCGs are killing us. So what can you do? So as some of you might already know, on the LTCG we get some tax benefit up to a certain level. Earlier it was used to be 1 lakh, now it's 1.25 lakhs. And if you fall in the 30% bracket, you can easily save 40,000 on the LTCG. So what you have to do, on every year you have to book your profits so that you are saving 40,000, more than 40,000 in fact, and you are also booking your profit as per the current LTCG. So in case some LTCG increases from 12.5% to 20% in the future, in for your returns you do not have to pay 20% because you kept booking the profits, and by that time it becomes 20%. You actually paid only 12.5% on your returns, on the returns in form of LTCGs. Okay, so last option you can employ is finding innovative solutions to save the taxes. Innovative but legal, like taking a home loan jointly with your spouse or with your parents. So both of you can claim the tax benefits while filing the taxes. Another one which a lot of people know but they don't do, or even they don't know, is forming a HUF. So HUF is a kind of like a separate person for whom you can claim the LTCGs, you can claim the ATCs, you can put the income on the HUF header, and basically you can start from zero. So your taxation calculation again starts from the zero. So that is another legal way of saving the taxes. So I will make another video on some tax saving hacks, including the HUF one, and maybe some taxation. I will also make another video on the taxation. So but till that time, please recalculate your retirement plan. If you have already planned for your retirement and you are close to your retirement, reevaluate whether the money is sufficient for you to retire or not. So in today's video we have learned some hard facts about investing, taxation structure in the India and the real inflation. So for more such videos, keep following me and subscribe to this channel. So more subscribers we get more motivation to create such videos. Thank you so much.